everyone. Welcome to another deep dive. This time we're taking a look at spirit guides. And, we've got some really interesting sources, especially that YouTube video with all those experts.
It's a fascinating discussion, isn't it?
Yeah.
They really don't shy away from those big questions.
Yeah, like right off the bat, they jump into this whole good versus bad spirit guide thing.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder, how much of that is just our own limited perspective.
Right. It's easy to get caught up in those labels like we're trying to fit these complex spiritual beings into these neat little boxes.
Totally. And one of the experts used this really interesting analogy about language.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah.
It was like, imagine you grow up only speaking, one language.
Yeah.
So you just assume that's how everyone communicates.
Yeah.
Then you travel to a new country and everyone's speaking a language you don't understand at all.
It's like you're suddenly in this whole other world and you have no idea what's going on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It can be disorienting, even a little scary.
Yeah.
And the expert was saying that maybe that's how it is with spirit guides, too.
Like we're trying to understand them through this limited lens of our own preconceived notions.
Exactly. And we might be misinterpreting them because of it.
So how do we broaden that lens? How do we move beyond those simple good versus bad labels?
Well, the experts in the video, they really emphasize the role of personal power. It's like we're not just passive recipients of guidance. We actually play a role in shaping our own spiritual experiences.
Okay, so it's more of a two-way street than we might realize.
Exactly. And that's why they caution against becoming too dependent on spirit guides or giving away our personal power. It's about finding that balance between seeking guidance and trusting our own intuition.
Which reminds me of another point that really stood out to me in the video. That story about one expert seemingly sensing another expert in Kenya on an energetic level. It's like their subtle bodies were communicating somehow.
Yeah, that was a pretty wild story.
Mm.
And it leads to this really fascinating discussion about the subtle body and its ability to perceive information beyond our physical senses.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to need a little help here. What exactly is the subtle body? It sounds kind of esoteric.
It's a bit out there, right?
Yeah.
But think of it like this. It's that layer of our being that extends beyond our physical form. It's often associated with our energy, emotions, and intuition.
Okay, I'm starting to get it. So in that story, the expert was picking up on information about the other expert's energy field or even their genetic makeup.
That's what they're suggesting. And it's a pretty mind-blowing concept, right? But it ties into another fascinating idea, the idea that our beliefs actually shape our reality.
Wait, so we're not just talking about spirit guides anymore. We're talking about how our beliefs influence our experiences in general.
Exactly. Remember that language analogy we talked about earlier? Well, the experts use it again here to explain how our preconceived notions, even about things like the afterlife, can actually limit our understanding and experiences.
So you're saying if we believe in limitations, we might actually be creating those limitations for ourselves, even after this physical life.
It's a really thought-provoking idea, isn't it? And it challenges us to examine our own beliefs and how they might be shaping our reality.
It's like, what if we're capable of so much more than we realize? What if our beliefs are holding us back from experiencing the full potential of our being?
That's exactly what the experts are encouraging us to consider. They're saying, hey, don't be afraid to question everything, even your most cherished beliefs.
Because in that questioning and that willingness to explore beyond the limitations of our current worldview, that's where we might discover something truly extraordinary.
Absolutely. It's about opening ourselves up to new possibilities, new ways of seeing and experiencing the world.
I love that. Okay, so we've talked about the good versus bad spirit guide debate, the idea of our subtle bodies sensing information and how our beliefs can shape our reality. This is already making me rethink some of my own assumptions. But there are so many other fascinating concepts in this video.
Right, like the idea that we can have multiple spirit guides, and that even a part of ourselves can act as a guide.
Multiple spirit guides. And a guide that's part of ourselves, that's getting pretty mind-bending. Hold on, we need to unpack these ideas a little more.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's dive in. What do you say we start with the idea of having multiple spirit guides, since that seems to be a popular question in the comments?
Sounds good to me. Let's do it. Okay, so multiple spirit guides. It's like having a whole spiritual support team, right? But how does that actually work?
Well, you know how in your life, you might have different people you turn to for different kinds of support. Like you might have a mentor at work, who helps you with your career, but then a friend who's there for you emotionally.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
And then maybe family who can offer practical advice or, just be there for you in a different way.
exactly. So it's kind of like that with spirit guides. They might each have their own area of expertise, just like the people in our lives.
Like one might specialize in helping us with creativity and another might guide us in our relationships or something.
Yep, that's the idea. And they might even kind of come and go, depending on what we're going through at any given time.
So we might have different guides stepping in to offer support as needed.
Exactly. Like a spiritual tag team.
I like that. So how do we know who these guys are? Do they reveal themselves to us?
Sometimes they do. You might have dreams or visions or just these strong intuitive feelings that point to the presence of a particular guide.
Or maybe we just feel drawn to certain symbols or animals or archetypes.
Exactly. It's about paying attention to those subtle cues and trusting our intuition.
It's like we have to learn their language.
Exactly. And their language might be different for each of us.
Yeah.
You know, it's not always going to be a big booming voice from the heavens.
Right, more like a gentle nudge or whisper in the wind.
Exactly.
But that brings up another question. If we can have multiple guides, does that mean we also have multiple higher selves?
That's an interesting question. The idea is that our higher self is this more expanded, evolved aspect of our being. It's that part of us that's connected to something greater.
So is it possible that this higher self could also act as a guide? Like offering us wisdom and guidance from this place of deep knowing?
Absolutely. And it ties into the idea that we already have all the guidance we need within ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Connecting with our higher self is about tapping into that inner wisdom.
Yeah.
That source of love and clarity that's always there.
It's like we're surrounded by guidance both within and without.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's up to us to choose which guidance we listen to, which voices we trust.
Which brings us back to that idea of discernment, right? How do we know which guidance is truly aligned with our highest good? Especially when you consider that some people believe spirit guides could actually be negative entities in disguise.
That's a valid concern, and one that we should definitely address. How about we explore that next, along with some practical tips for discerning between, genuine guidance and potentially harmful influences.
Sounds good. Let's dive into that. So we're talking about discernment and, how to tell if the guidance we're getting is really for our benefit.
Right, because not all guidance is created equal, is it?
Exactly. So how can we tell the difference between, genuine guidance and something that might be leading us astray?
Well, the experts in the video, they emphasize that there's no magic formula.
Mhm.
It's really about developing our own intuition.
That gut feeling, right? Like when something just feels off or doesn't quite sit right.
Exactly. And they say to pay attention to our emotional state too. Like, how do we feel when we're receiving guidance? Does it feel expansive and uplifting, or does it feel constricting and kind of fear-based?
So if we're feeling anxious or uneasy, that could be a red flag.
It could be. I mean, obviously not all discomfort is bad. Sometimes we need to step outside our comfort zones to grow. But if the guidance is consistently making you feel, fearful or manipulated, that's probably a sign to question it.
Makes sense. Another thing the experts talked about was aligning with our own values and intentions. How does that play into discernment?
Well, think about it this way. You wouldn't take financial advice from someone who's always broke right. You'd want advice from someone whose financial values align with your own.
So it's the same with spiritual guidance. We need to make sure it resonates with our own core values.
Exactly. If the guidance is encouraging you to act in ways that go against your moral compass, that's a big red flag.
This all makes a lot of sense, but it can still feel kind of overwhelming, Like there's so much information out there, so many different beliefs and perspectives.
Yeah, it can definitely be a lot to navigate. The experts suggest, practices like meditation and mindfulness and spending time in nature to help us quiet the mind and connect with that deeper knowing within ourselves.
So it's about finding that balance between seeking external guidance and cultivating our own inner compass.
Exactly.
This deep dive has given me so much to think about. We've covered so much ground, from the nature of spirit guides and the potential influence of beliefs to the importance of discernment and the power of our own inner wisdom.
And we only scratched the surface. There's always more to explore.
I'm definitely feeling inspired to keep learning. But before we wrap up, I'd like to leave our listeners with one final thought to ponder. If our beliefs really do have the power to shape our reality, what might happen if we consciously choose to believe in something greater than ourselves? Something that empowers us, inspires us, and connects us to a deeper sense of purpose and meaning.
That's a beautiful question to leave everyone with. What new possibilities might emerge if we dare to dream bigger, expand our awareness, and embrace the mystery of it all?
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the world of spirit guides.
It's been a pleasure exploring these ideas with you.
We hope this has sparked your curiosity and inspired you to continue your own journey of discovery.
Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep that mind of yours wide open.
Until next time, take care.